Now, the thought of this scares Paul shitless. That someone will think, here I am in the middle of a crisis, I'm at the end of my rope, I do not know what to do, I've got to do something, and therefore I've got to get Paul. Because he talks with Jesus. And Jesus is my answer. You see? No. Paul is not channeling me. Paul has said, I don't care to have anything to do with my best judgments. I don't care to have anything to do with my strongest beliefs. I don't want to have anything to do with my highest sense of what's right. Because in the middle of not knowing how to resolve a problem, all of these things have not transformed the problem. And then, well, because he didn't know anyone he could run to, he said, help. In the vacancy of his, in the absence of being Humpty Dumpty, in the emptiness, in the void that he was experiencing, he said help, and then he listened. Now, the thing is, he listened with commitment. Because he didn't want anything to do with his own best judgment and best thoughts and so on and so forth. He was willing to abandon any capacity he ever thought he had. You know what that means? When you actually get to that place and do it, you're laying your life on the line. So it's real basic. And that's another part of the lesson of the crucifixion and resurrection. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. And you could say, I put my life on the line. I made total commitment to, nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. When you arrive at the end of your rope and you give up and you say help, and you have in your mind no other resource you can go to, no psychic, no channel, no priest, no counselor, whom you could blame if after taking their advice things didn't work out well. You lay your life on the line. You take responsibility for the step you're taking, you see? Do you see that when you take responsibility for giving up totally and listening without having any alternative or backup plan in mind, in effect you're saying, this is worth it to me no matter what happens, no matter what anyone thinks. I'm willing to take responsibility for this very radical step. You see, you're laying your life on the line, and you are validating it with your complete willingness. This is all very important. You will miss out on so much. Yes, you can come here on Sunday afternoons when we have a gathering. And whenever we do it, I will talk with you. We will be together actively. But what a shame if in between you're saying, I can't wait for the next gathering, when I will be able to get a little insight, when, if at that very moment you were willing to sit down and ask and listen about something that you have a real need, that you're experiencing a real need for. And do it, put your life on the line. You can have it any moment, every moment, all day long, every day. So stop thinking about Paul channeling Raj or the Christ or Jesus, and stop thinking about you channeling Raj or the Christ or the Holy Spirit. It's not channeling at all. What it is Humpty Dumpty falling, breaking apart, and not trying to reassemble itself, but saying, help, beyond itself. You see? And remember, this is the meaning of crucifixion. It's the shell of who you think you are and who you have built yourself up to be in your own mind, and who maybe a number of other people have helped reinforce. It is that getting cracks in it, little pinpeck holes where something beyond it can penetrate. And then it's you making commitment to who you are beyond that shell. When you begin to do that, when you will make commitment to hear the Father's will and to let it find expression through you because you have listened and heard it, and you are willing to be from the clarity that has unfolded to you, then you begin to function as the Christ, just as the president who can manage to dissociate himself from a personal sense of responsibility to daughter and wife, so that he can move into his capacity to act as president, in which not only those two people are embraced, but the whole world. Then you become a transformational presence in the world. But more than that, you experience what it means to be the Christ. And you know what it means? It doesn't mean that wherever you move, bugles blow to announce you. It doesn't mean awe and respect and honor. You know what it means? It means, first of all, being in perfect peace, where even the concept of fear is meaningless. Have you ever looked at a word or heard a word over and over until the sound is just a sound and it doesn't mean anything? That's what I mean. Fear becomes meaningless. The word has no associations with it. And all that's available to you is peace. Perfect relaxation, where when you breathe out, you let all of the air out and you are in bliss. What does it mean? It means that, these are poor words, but it means that you can look at any situation and immediately grasp it in its entirety so that you are able to be perfectly appropriate. It means that there is utter orderliness to everything you are experiencing. And even though everything you are experiencing is the manifestation of creation and is therefore continually unfolding anew, even though everything you are experiencing from moment to moment is something you've never experienced before, you immediately grasp it in its entirety and are able to be utterly appropriate relative to it. Why? Confidence isn't even needed. Inner strength and fortitude isn't needed to experience everything with freshness and vitality. Does not enervate you because you don't have to react to it. You're able to be with it fully. And I could go on, but this is Easter. And 3 days ago was Bad Friday. And these 3 days embody all of the wonderful elements relative to awakening. And I trust that I have conveyed it in a way that takes the heaviness away from it. But doesn't take away its meaning. It's time for all of you to be able to act in your capacity as the Christ. Paul wants to put a sign across the top of the TV that says, "Today's best perception of the kingdom of heaven." And today's best perception of the kingdom of heaven is pretty lousy. But if you remembered every time you looked at your TV set that you were looking at someone's best perception of the only thing there is available to have an experience of, which is the kingdom of heaven, you wouldn't believe what you see on the screen. You'd recognize that all it was someone's best perception. And it's your birthright to act in your capacity as the Christ and see the kingdom of heaven, not a best perception. And by virtue of your capacity to do that, and you're remembering that that's your function when you see the images on the TV, you would bring healing to everything you saw, rather than turning on the TV to see what's going on in the world. It doesn't tell you what's going on in the world. It tells you someone's best perception of what's going on in the kingdom of heaven. And if all you're seeing is a perception, a momentary best perception, then you'll be more willing to bless the perception with your willingness to see more clearly than the best perception that's coming across the tube. You'll act in your capacity as the Christ. So, nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. Which requires listening deeply, without having backup plans or alternate sources to go to if what is revealed to you is not to your liking. Where you lay your life on the line and are willing to stand with whatever happens. Because when you do that, whatever happens will be glorious. But you will not be able to find it out until you're willing to lay your life on the line. You know what? This is why I suggest that you try this on things that don't matter, so that you aren't called upon to discover your capacity to function as what you truly are in the middle of a horrendous crisis. You can do it in the middle of a horrendous crisis, but it's not necessary to wait until then to have a little curiosity that causes you to invite something else in. Break the separation, experience a joining, experience the influx of wisdom, enlightenment, and the experience of truth, and then live it, whether anyone else agrees with you or not. You see? It's all nitty-gritty stuff, but it isn't truly heavy, grievous. You see? If Paul were to pass on today, many people would probably feel it a great loss. And the only reason they would feel at a great loss would be because they hadn't heard what I had been saying, and they hadn't paid attention to what Paul's life meant. Because Paul has been doing what I have said, what I have been expressing, except that he's still holding out for a millisecond each day to do what he wants. Nevertheless, it's inappropriate for anybody to ever feel at a loss if suddenly Paul disconnected his phone, moved, and didn't tell anybody where he moved to. You see, I'm pushing today I'm pushing for all of you to stop putzing around, and playing with spiritual things, and dare to make commitment to your awakening, not by buying all the books you can get about it, but by going into that place where you feel a need and you don't have the answer, and saying, I am going to seek no further than this emptiness in me. I'm going to look nowhere else but in this void in me where there seems to be no answer and just a problem. And I'm going to ask for clarity to be given, and I am going to listen, and I am not going to act until I've heard. And be sure you're being honest when you say these wonderful things that I've just said to say. Because if you're just giving them lip service, you're not putting your life on the line. You've got to put your life on the line if you want to see it transformed back into what you have always divinely been. The crucifixion part of it must occur. And it won't occur if you're not putting your life on the line. If you're not standing there with your decision, rather than wanting to go to someone like Paul, because he has done it, or he does it at least when you're there, and something meaningful occurs. Hell, come on Sundays where we can talk this way, and on all of the other days, do it in the withinness of yourself, so we can be together every other day. But understand what it takes. It doesn't take being nailed up on a cross, but it does take stepping into the unknown, stepping into the void. Abandoning all backup plans and trusting into God, because that's the only way you'll find there really is a God as an experience. And the experience of the fact that there is a God constitutes an experience of who you are, the Christ. This is your birthright. This is what it's about. So, happy Easter. All it is the means by which you come back into your right mind. It's just the means by which you wake up to the fullness of you, the fullness of being, where you never again feel like a father or a husband or a son or a daughter trapped by obligations to the roles that have been assigned to you in your best concepts of who you are, when you've forgotten that you are the Christ and that you have no special relationships with special people, but you have the fullest of all relationships with everyone, including the one you would have called mother and daughter and wife and so on. Now, let's eat. Who has a question? You had your hand up?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Raj. Not sure what question to ask right now. Could you explain a little bit about those beings who are with us on the other side of life? I've heard of a term, consortium. How we can learn from them.
First of all, I want to make it very clear that on, as you termed it, the other side of life, there are no organizations.
Yeah, God.
Eggs have cartons, but or egos have cartons in which they feel organized. But reality is not compartmentalized. I have just spent perhaps an hour telling you how to avail yourself of truth. It is well for you not to conceptualize the source of truth. When Paul sits down, and I've said this before, he says, I allow only for that which expresses the Christ consciousness, and only that which is in harmony with the purpose, the capital P purpose of being. And the word being, as he is using it, is a verb rather than a noun. That's about as non-conceptual as you can get, and still provide some sort of definition. Do you want to amend or change your question in any way? Because regardless of the context in which you expressed it, you had a question. You experienced a desire to know something.